Alright everyone, welcome back for another Carnivore Trades and Market educational video. And so basically this video is going to be a little bit about trend lines. This is not a master video on trend lines, but this is just a little excerpt here that I want to do because I was actually just messing around tonight with some older trend lines that I had drawn in, and I wanted to show you guys why they're important and just show you some cool things that I have noticed just from messing around with older trend lines. But anyway, why these trend lines matter. So if you guys have been following me lately, you know I've been talking about this trend line here on the spiders. So essentially it draws in right about there. And recently we erased this trend line because, so you see we basically kissed it here, and then we actually tagged it here, tag, broke through it, traded back above it, broke through it again, then traded back above it. So I erased it. And the reason why I did that is because now you've violated it so many times that's telling you that the market isn't respecting that trend line. However, now that this trend line is now considered minor, a minor level, whether that's support or resistance, it's considered minor. That doesn't mean that this trend line doesn't matter per se. It is minor, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. And what I want to show you here is, so if we look at another trend line that I had erased really back in June, I believe, we look at this steeper trend line here. So this one goes still from the March 2020 lows, and you tagged it actually clearly here in October, or at the end of October. We pierced it, gapped down, got back above it, then we closed below it, tried to close below it again, which we did, but never took out this pivot. And then look what happened. This trend line has become resistance. So even though we violated it so many times to the point where I actually erased this trend line from my analysis, this trend line is still resistance. And the market's actually respecting it. Now this trend line, this upper trend line here, is a more master level. But you notice how the market has respected this. And it wouldn't surprise me if we found resistance here before we even got to the upper trend line. So that's just something I want to share. And now if we look at the ES, I've kept this level on the E-mini because it's been such a valuable level to me. So if we look at this upper yellow line, forget the lower one here. I've had this level on here for a very long time. Notice how, so we had the highs in March 2020. We pulled back, and then we made this a support level. So we tag, came off of it, tagged it, it became support. Then we broke through it, went up, kind of traded through it a little bit, then we just hugged it for months. Had a little breakdown, got back up, broke down, in spirit of kissed it on the lower side, and we got back up here, hugged it, broke down. And now it looks like we want to go test again. But if you notice, since the March lows, essentially, the market has not gone too far away from this trend line. Now, yeah, we violated it so many times. Look, we violated it here, went through it, then we just chopped through it for months. But this market has served as basically like a home base. This line has served as a home base. And sometimes these trend lines do that. And the algos, I mean, essentially what we're doing is we're tracking the algos. The algos are keeping the market in these lines here. And that's essentially what these trend lines are tracking. You see this here, again, respecting this one in the middle, respecting this one on the top, and still somewhat respecting this one on the bottom. And if we look at the QQQ, I've talked about this multiple times in the past on this channel, on Wall Street for Main Street channel. Notice this trend line. As soon as we broke through that, we back tested it and failed. And then we put in another trend line, the purple one. You know, this was your first hit, then we broke through it, and we back tested it, rejected it, and in doing so, we put in the blue trend line. Here, 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hit. So these levels here, these trend lines are to be very well respected. Now on the top side, we have these two parallel lines right here and right here. So now this should theoretically be resistance on the top side. So this is why it's so important to pay attention to these trend lines. Even if you violate them and you break through them and confirm below them, even if it doesn't result in a gigantic move to one way or the other, it's still a benchmark for the markets, and you want to pay attention to that, and that will help improve your trading accuracy very much so, especially given the fact that computers do 80% of the trading now. Now, yes, the computers are programmed by humans, but the computers are much more accurate and not driven by emotion the way that humans are. So you're going to have these sort of programmed levels that are, the market kind of just reverts to. It's like I just said, a home base of sorts. So again, looking at the ES, notice how it just wants to keep going back to home base. And until we have a major break in trend, meaning confirmation below the 100 moving average, I think that would do it for me. Until that truly happens, the market's still going to want to respect these levels. So that's something that you can definitely add to your analysis. And I just wanted to point that out a little bit because I was messing around with some levels tonight. I thought it would be a good video to do for you guys. Anyways, take care. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you later on the chart.